got our mic. Hello and welcome to October's first Tuesday night music. And we're going to have the lovely Dr. Bryce Colson play for us. I just out of curiosity, was anybody here last year for this show? Okay, so we got some returns. He is definitely back by popular demand. We had many people call and say that they wanted him to come back. So we have Bryce back to play again for us, and I'm very excited about this. I don't have a huge speech prepared, but I do have some housekeeping, so we'll go through that pretty fast. Tonight's program is brought to you by the Friends of the Library. The Friends of the Library is a nonprofit organization that supports the library, and they pay for all different kinds of exciting programming, like LO Reads, First Tuesday, all kinds of things. You can become a friend of the library. There is a form right there on the table with the cookies. So when you visit Cookies, if you're thinking about becoming a member, it's very easy. It's $15. Some people think, that's not for me. That sounds hard. $15. That's it. That's all it takes to support the library. Also, we have a survey, once again, also with the cookies, so that when you're just eating those cookies, you can fill out that survey on the way out. And the survey lets us know who to bring back. It lets us know what you like. It lets us know if you have any suggestions for other performers or improvements, ways that we could do better. All right. And finally, we have an assistive listening system. So if you have a T-coil, it works with a T-coil, and if you don't, it works with over-ear headphones, which we can provide. All you have to do is go and visit the reference desk, and they'll set you up with that so that you can hear better. And also, we have this program every first Tuesday, so just a sneak preview. Coming up next month, we have the blues artist, Mary Flower. It is on election night, so if you're feeling like you maybe don't want to watch some nonsense on a big screen and you'd rather listen to a very talented musician play, please come and listen to our talented musician, and then go home and feel however you want to feel. And then in December, we have LaRonda Steele, who will be singing gospel. I'm very excited about that one. She will be a first-time performer for this venue, and I'm excited to have her. But right now, Bryce, you ready? Yo. All right, I think that sounds like a yes. I'm going to pass it off to you. And also, Bryce, by the way, I'm not going to say a lot about what Bryce is going to do because Bryce is an excellent presenter and will tell you himself. It's all you.
Ah, shucks. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Bryce Colson. It's a pleasure to have you all there. Hi, Jade. Hello, Brian. Glad y'all could make it. Welcome to the people who are here from before. Welcome to my friends, and welcome to the new faces. I'm glad you all could make it tonight. So we are going to do one repeat from last year, fitting in with the Halloween theme that was requested, and that's Buster Keaton's The Haunted House. But first up tonight, we have Georges Méliès' Le Voyage dans la Lune, and that is A Voyage to the Moon. This is an early 1902 production, and it is quite fun. For those of you who have never seen French cinema, it is very different from American cinema, very overacted. It is a lot of those big motions, and you're going to see, so in this first one, and after the first one, we will do a little brief history of the pipe organ and how it has led us to today and how it's going to continue on. But in the movie of A Voyage to the Moon, you're going to see that some scientists of the Royal Institute in France are meeting together, and they are going to discuss a way to get to the moon. They get to the moon, they meet the creatures and the mysteries of the moon, and then they bring some of that back to Earth. We have found in the past that it's easier to give a little synopsis of the plot line beforehand because sometimes it is confusing. A lot of times people expect things to go along with the modern way of movies, which is lots of sound effects and, you know, the xylophone, tink, 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 and as the mouse runs around and whatnot. One thing in traditional theater organ for cinema is that you're not going to hear sound effects. You're going to hear music that is trying to set the mood for what you're seeing on the screen. I would like to note that everything you hear tonight is completely improvised. None of it. I have practiced with the films before, so I kind of know what's coming up, but every time I play this and every time you see it and hear it, it is a completely different set of chord structures and improvisations than the time before. So this will be the third time today I've played it, and I guarantee you it is not like the first two times I've played it. So the fun part is each one's been on a little different instrument. So without further ado, we're going to get into A Voyage to the Moon from Georges Méliès. Turn off the speakers but leave the microphone hooked up? Does that affect the online, April?
Yeah, we have to leave it now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's hope for no feedback. No? questions or anything, feel free to. Has anybody seen this one before? This is probably the most popular current silent film on the media today. It's been shown around. There's some cool groups that have done it with synthesizers and a very modern feel. And so everything here is going to be 1920s, turn of the century, pipe organ kind of themes you're hearing. It is fun. I encourage you to go look these up with other scores and whatnot. I've seen one version of this that has done the same film to the 1812 Overture. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum-bum-bum. You know that song. So without further ado, I'll shut up now and we'll get to the actual music. Can we dim these lights or something?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. Okay, so we're going to go into just a quick, brief history of the organ and kind of how it works. Now, mind you, this is electronic. We don't have full, authentic pipes here. But the basis is, you've seen in your church, you've seen in your local theater, like at the Oaks Park skating rink, you got your big pipes up here, and these are relying on pneumatic airflow. Traditionally a bellows. Modern day, it's a big electric fan. It is blowing air through into this air reservoir. These are big air chests, as they call them. The pipes just sit in the top. And then when you hit your key, traditionally this was through a actual pin and a piston. So you would hit your key, it would pull on a lever, and there would be a physical valve that would open up and allow air through a particular pipe. And so if you listen to some old recordings of some traditional French or German Baroque organs that are 500 years old at this point, you'll hear the clicking of the pistons and the rods. It's called a piston action organ. It's a rod action. And you're going to hear that clicking. And that clicking is part of that sound when you're listening to some of these old instruments. As time went on, we then went to pneumatic action. And so if you ever have, who's here has heard the Oaks Park organ? Naturally. That organ is a pneumatic action. It's actually the largest pneumatic action pipe organ on this side of the Mississippi. And instead of having actual levers and pins here, what happens is there's air pressure running under the keyboard of those organs. And what's happening is when you hit a key, it is releasing pressure on this small pneumatic tube. And that drop in pressure is what's opening up the stopper here on your tone valve to allow air through the pipe. Nowadays, it's all done electronically. I will say pneumatic action actually took the longest as far as delay goes between hitting a key and being able to hear the note. Any time that it was. But on the flip side of it, it allowed the console of the organ to be in a far different place than the actual setup of the pipes. And this was more important as churches came along. And so originally, the organ was invented in ancient Greece. around 5,000 years ago, and it was called the hydraulis, so instrument of water. And basically, instead of having a bellows or a fan pump air, it was having a water wheel actually pump the air, and it was still pneumatic. Cespeus of Alexandria is known as the father of pneumatics. He invented this wonderful machine. Here is what is a recreation of pieced together artifacts of a first century hydraulis. And this was mostly used in big theaters, circus shows of the Romans and the Greeks and whatnot. This was all for entertainment. And so then, as time went on, it ended up getting into the cathedrals. And so one of the things with the organ is it is a massive instrument, and as time went on and it became expanded to include multiple manuals and bigger consoles and bigger pipes, it became quite a status symbol for institutions. And so at the time, here around the 1 to 2000s, we have the church was in quite a great deal of power in Europe and society over that time. And so the biggest ones were these big Baroque organs. Here's an 18th century one in Spain. That would be the 1700s, Monastery of Santa Cruz. And then there were smaller ones that were bellow operated called portative or positive organs, and you're going to see that one here. The closest example I know of a cute little positive organ is over at Trinity Episcopal, downtown Portland. You can see their little positive organ is just about that size, and they're meant to be mobile for small chapels and masses, but they're operating more like an accordion where it's got reeds on the inside rather than pipes. But they still do have some pipes for non-reeded sounds, but it's going to be pumped. Sometimes some modern ones are electric, but now most of the time they would be done with foot pumps. Of course, now we have the theater coming around, but the church organ, sounded a lot different. You had a far more than what you've heard here tonight. This was on its theater organ setting. If you put it to the church or classical organ, you're going to get a far more silvery sound. They don't use a tremolo. So if we plagal cadence. So that silvery sound, they don't use a tremolo. You're going to hear in the theater, you get that back and forth here. If I turn the tremolo off, it's going to sound a little more churchy. If I turn it on, suddenly it sounds like the skating rink again. That's a pretty neat thing. The tremolo boxes, just so you know, they're a small bellow chest that's operated independently of the main bellows, and it's going into these wind chests as an auxiliary air source, and it's pumping really fast, and so it's changing the air pressure in that pipe box, so you get that tremolo effect of the actual change in pressure. And now, around the turn of the century, this is the 1900s turn of the century, we had quite the surge in theater organs, and this is where the cinema came around. Cinema, the moving picture, came around in the late 1800s, around the 1880s. It was pretty popular right around the turn of the century, 1990s to 1920. They were originally called movies because it was a moving picture, and then after the movies, you had the talkies, and the talkies had the talking, and this was actually invented in the late 1890s, but it was not popularized because it was so difficult, so labor-intensive, and so expensive for any of these film corporations and studios to incorporate the talking sound into their movies that it actually took a good 30 years of the technology being around before it was popularized. And so you're going to start seeing more talkies coming around the 1930s. And so that it's pretty interesting because it actually put the movie people out of business, like Buster Keaton and who's the real famous one? Charlie Chaplin. Thank you. I'm a Buster Keaton fan here. So really, because they didn't know what their voices were going to sound like, and these people were in a totally different form of acting. As soon as you can include talking into your performances, you no longer have to act like this. It's not important to express love like this, even though it's fun and I highly recommend it. So these people went out of business because nobody cared for the sound of their voice, and they didn't really know how to voice project. They had a totally different acting skill that is nowadays obsolete. It went obsolete right around 1930. So besides cinema organ, theater organs were used for being able primarily to automate the pit orchestra. So once you paid for your installation, that was simultaneously a status symbol of your theater or church. You now only had to pay one musician for his time instead of a whole pit of musicians for their time. And so my great-grandmother, there was my great-great-grandmother, she was she played the piano out at the Molalla Silent Theater back in the day, way back when. This is far before any of us were alive. So my great-grandma was born in 1910, and so this is before that. So some of the things about the mightiest of instruments, which is really where it got its name with the Wurlitzer. Copton was another big brand. The silent film industry was booming. These theater organs were also used for other theatrical things, plays and such, not just specifically the cinema. Like, it was very also popular, as we know, for skating rink and such. The largest organ in the world is at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It's got 33,133 pipes, 449 ranks, 7 manuals, and 337 stops. So a little bit about what that means. When we talk about pipes, that's total pipes in general. When we talk about ranks, that is sets of pipes with individual voices. And so we have, on here, we got about 20 ranks of different stuff, which is a pretty good size organ. If you were to take this little electronic one and expand it into something acoustic, it would be pretty massive. It is only one of 2 organs in the world with an open 64-foot rank, and that means, so when we talk about like a piano, whatever key you hit, it's only going to play one note, right? That is known as an 8-foot stop and such. And so when we double those numbers, it means it gets deeper, and it plays an octave lower on the keyboard on its own. This means that the bass height of one of these deep bass pipes is 64 feet tall. Only 2 organs in the world ever have 64-foot pipes. They are massive, they are loud, and they need a massive amount of air volume just to be able to play that. And so the sheer putting in the wind structure to support a 64-foot pipe was rare, let alone the building space needed to put in a full rank, meaning every key on the keyboard needs its own pipe. That's a rank. And so it's huge. We're talking multi-million-dollar instruments just to make it happen. It also has the 16-foot Ophicleida, which is the world's loudest stop. And that's pretty cool. It's one of those things that excuse me, if you go and watch some videos of this organ, the pit crew and the people who are the stagehands and whatnot, they have to be warned if that 16-foot Ophicleida is going to be used because it is so blatantly loud. Remember also that has anybody been to Boardwalk Hall perchance? It's massive. That it is so massive of a stadium that it takes a full 7 seconds for the pipe sound at the front of the stadium to reach the back. And so this organ, which is currently being restored, they're getting pretty close to having it fully restored. It's pretty interesting if you actually follow some of the stuff online. That this they have to give the people warning, otherwise it is deafening to these people. Where is it? It is in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Yeah. Another one of the biggest pipe organs in the world is at the Macy's in Philadelphia. So if you're ever in Philadelphia, make sure to stop at the Macy's. They do some occasional concerts there. Do we have any questions on this? No? Nothing? Okay, we'll move on. And then here, this is what the future of the organ is looking like. This is called a Hauptwerk system. It's a German-invented system. Around the turn of the 21st century, this would be the 1990s, anywhere between the 1970s to the 2001 or so. Every major brand created a home organ. Who here has had a spinet in their parents' or their grandparents' home, about the size of this? These, they came with all sorts of bells and whistles. This is where organ, that's an organ term, bells and whistles. Also, if you ever heard anybody pulling out all the stops, that refers to organ stops. That's what we call the individual voices. So like the trumpet stop or the ophicleida stop. They're all different things, and they're all based off different instruments. Interestingly enough, the word organ itself means instrument in Greek. And so it is the instrument of instruments, the original synthesizer. These are all electronic. It's all computer-based. They use touch screens. They will use some physical buttons because anybody who actually plays is going to tell you they don't want to use touch screens. They want to use physical buttons. Home players, churches, it's all sampled. So one of the problems is that because of modern economics and people's desire in such an instrument, we're not getting pipes built anymore. You know, we actually have one of the nation's premier pipe organ builders here in Portland. They're called Rose City Organ Builders, and they go all over the country and build massive organs. There's like 2 or 3 of these companies left. There used to be thousands of these around the world and the country. Nowadays, it's all sampled, which means that they took actual organs that have already been built, and they recorded every individual pipe and sets of pipes, and then they're replaying it. So when you hit the key, a computer program is telling you to play this note. It's pretty cool because it actually allows to have that full cathedral sound in a tiny little chapel for a couple of $1,000s. This organ, for example, you know, this was built in about 91, I think, and it's got all sorts of fun, you know, rock tempos and whatnot. They were throwing in all sorts of stuff in the late 80s and 90s for stuff. These are just organs, but they are making a big comeback, and they're allowing more and more people to get back into this. So, unfortunately, it's not allowing for the new creation of sounds and pipes because every pipe is different based off what metal it is, what shape it is, and what wood it's made of, and what its dimensions are. There's many factors that go into it. And so these are relying and bringing a classical feel back to what we have today. Do we have any questions now? Then we're going to move on, and we're going to go play Buster Keaton's The Haunted House. Yes, that one is a classic. Everybody loves the stairs. How can you not love the stairs? Okay, those were just a couple of the many silent films. Highly recommend you going either to YouTube or the Internet Archive, and you can find lots of these films for your enjoyment. There are all sorts of amazing players all around the world. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here for you once again, and I hope that maybe we can do this again next year with a couple of new films. So thank you, everybody. Do we have any questions or anything? Yes, ma'am. Oh, with the house? That one's fun, isn't it? That one is called The Scarecrow. I got that one. The one where they're throwing the things back and forth and yeah. That I How close are we on time, Miss April?
Your timing was excellent. It's 28.
Okay. Say if we have 5 more minutes, we could do a little encore, but I have to have permission from the library because that is one of the best silent movie scenes of all time. Do we have time for it? We have 5 minutes. We're going to show the first part of the Scarecrow because it's been asked for. Let's see if this is it. Oops. So this is another Buster Keaton one. It is so funny. It is delightfully funny. Yep. Okay, here we go. 1922, I believe. Oh, we did it again. How do we do this? Prohibition time. That's funny.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Hope to see you next month. Don't forget to fill out a survey and grab a cookie on your way out.